there, greetings from Colombo everybody. I'm Hassan Shazuli and this is Primetime News on News First, where the people come first. Let's start off with a look at your headlines tonight.
Court suspends enjoining order. Russian flight leaves for Moscow.
මෙම කරුණු කාරණා සියල්ල සලකා බලලා අද දිනේදී රුසියා තානාපතිතුමා සමග මම දීර්ඝ වශයෙන් මේ පිළිබඳව සාකච්ඡා කරලා ඔවුන්ට සිදු අපහසුතාවය පිළිබඳව අපේ රජයේ කනගාටුව ප්‍රකාශ කරලා ඒකඟතාවයකට ආවා.
Former President Maithripala Sirisena writes to Russia's Putin. Court delivers suspended 2-year jail term to Minister Prasanna Ranatunga. Diesel shortage aggravates. Public transport affected.
අද බස් දෙකයි ආවේ කෑ ගන්න. ආයෙත් නෑ යන්න විතරයි තියෙන්නේ. දැන් හෙට නෑ. ඉතින් තෙල් ආව ගා ගන්න පුළුවන් නැත්තම් නෑ.
අද ආවේ නෑ බස් 10 12 15 විතර ආවේ නෑ. ඒ වගේ එන්න තෙල් නෑ.
දවස් දෙකකට පස්සේ එන්නේ. අද ගිහලා අද ඩීසල් නැති වෙච්චාම ආයෙ දවස් 3-4ක් ඉන්න ඕනේ.
Bangladesh considering sending potatoes to Sri Lanka. Elect a new government. Opposition leaders' solution to the crisis.
Welcome to the news. In your top story tonight, Gotabaya Rajapaksa has said he can't resign as a failed president and that he will complete his term in office. He had made these remarks in an interview with Bloomberg.
In an interview with Bloomberg, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa said he would not recontest a presidential election. He had, however, vowed to finish the remaining 2 years in his term. The president had said, quote, "I can't go as a failed president. I have been given a mandate for 5 years," end quote. Bloomberg quoted the president as saying he wanted to replicate his previous successful stints in serving the country. The president had been skeptical about the success of a planned amendment to the constitution which seeks to contain the executive presidency. He said the presidency should either be abolished or the parliament should be kept out of governing. He questioned, what is this executive of the president? My personal opinion is that if you have a presidency, he must have full powers. The president said, quote, "It is political as a president. You know I am not a politician. Fortunately or unfortunately, people, when they are in politics for so long, you can have so much baggage. You have lots of friends, lots of people who want your help, are your supporters. When you go against this, I try to go against this, you don't get their help," end quote.
In the rest of tonight's stories, a flight belonging to Russian national air carrier Aeroflot, which was grounded in Colombo, left for Moscow today. The aircraft was allowed to fly after the Colombo Commercial High Court suspended an order preventing it from leaving.
An Su-289 flight belonging to Russia's national airline Aeroflot that was grounded in Colombo left the Bandaranaike International Airport at 6 p.m. today. On the 2nd of June, the Colombo Commercial High Court issued an order preventing the flight from leaving Colombo over a case filed by an Irish company. The Attorney General filed a motion today requesting court to suspend the enjoining order. Additional Solicitor General Sumati Dharmawardena told court that the petitioner had obtained the order by misleading court after concealing information. Judge Harsha Setunga declared that the court had not issued an enjoining order on the Bandaranaike International Airport or Airport and Aviation Services Limited. The Additional Solicitor General questioned how the petitioner's lawyer and a court fiscal officer had gone to the air traffic control room and prevented the flight from leaving using the court order. He requested court to draw its attention towards this incident. The judge declared that if such an incident had occurred, it would be a misuse of judicial powers. The Additional Solicitor General argued that the enjoining order issued by court goes against Section 37 of the Civil Aviation Act. He said that the order violates the powers granted to the Director General of the Civil Aviation Authority by Parliament to handle matters related to aviation. Lawyers for the Irish company that filed the case and the Russian airline made submissions in court today. The judge considered these submissions and ordered to suspend the enjoining order issued by court.
The Civil Aviation Authority has granted permission for the flight to fly towards any destination. We are happy that this issue has been solved.
Justice Minister Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa had met with the Russian ambassador and expressed his regret over the incident.
අද දිනේදී රුසියාවේ තානාපතිතුමා සමග
I held a lengthy discussion with the Russian ambassador and expressed our regret on behalf of the government. We have successfully solved this problem diplomatically without bringing disrepute to any country. Although the court had only issued an order to Aeroflot, a lawyer and a court fiscal officer had gone to the air traffic control room and threatened that the officers there would be charged with contempt of court if they don't stop the flight. I will receive a report on this incident in 2 days. We will take action against the lawyer and the fiscal officer based on the outcome of the report.
කල්වරයාට එරෙහිව සහ එසේ හැසිරුණු නීතිඥවරයාට එරෙහිව අපිට නීතිමය පියවර ගන්න සිද්ධ වෙනවා.
Former President Maithripala Sirisena wrote to Russian President Vladimir Putin yesterday over the incident. He requested Russia to consider the decision over this incident as one made by court and not by the government. The former president said he wishes to make this appeal although he is no longer a member of the government. Sirisena said Sri Lanka is facing fuel shortages, power cuts and an imminent food crisis and therefore needs the support of all friendly nations. He said, quote, "The help of Russia as one of our oldest and closest friends will be crucial to us." End quote. The former president requested to reconsider the suspension of Aeroflot flights to Colombo. Many civic groups handed over a memorandum to the Prime Minister's office over this issue today.
Why did something like this happen? Why is there a hidden force acting to tarnish the friendship between our countries? There was an issue over asbestos sheets back then. Then there was the issue of a bug in a tea consignment. Russia is one of the leading buyers of Sri Lankan tea. Russia is willing to supply oil, flour and other food items to Sri Lanka. They are willing to sell fertilizer to us at much lower rates. The Russian government deals directly with another government. Intermediaries can't make commissions. Is that why some are acting like this? Russia is willing to sell goods to us at prices lower than global market rates. Why aren't we obtaining that? Why are officials delaying this? Is it because they can't earn commissions?
The civic groups also handed over a memorandum to the Russian embassy. Buddhist monks, including Venerable Dr. Omalpe Sobidatero, also handed over a memorandum to the Russian embassy.
They could have consulted the President or Prime Minister and then made a decision. We are suspicious over the speed in which they implemented the court order. It's clear that this is a conspiracy against Sri Lanka.
Sri Lankaවට එරෙහි කුමන්ත්‍රණයක් තියෙනවායි කියන බවට පැහැදිලි ලෙසම කරුණු තියෙනවා.
In some news that came out of court today, Minister Prasanna Rantunga was sentenced to 2 years of rigorous imprisonment, suspended for 5 years. He was found guilty of threatening a businessman in 2015. The Colombo Commercial High Court ordered the minister to pay a fine of 25 million rupees and 1 million rupees as compensation.
The case was filed at the Colombo High Court accusing Minister Prasanna Ranatunga of threatening a businessman named Gihan Mendes in 2015. Ranatunga had been serving as Chief Minister of the Western Province at that time. He had demanded 64 million rupees from the businessman to evict unauthorized occupants of a land in the Mituramulla area and to permit filling the land. The Attorney General had filed 15 charges against the accused. Ranatunga was found guilty of amassing illegal profits by signing promissory notes and for trying to unlawfully obtain something that he did not have legal ownership. The court sentenced the minister to 2 years rigorous imprisonment, suspended for 5 years. The judge also ordered the minister to pay a fine of 25 million rupees and 1 million rupees as compensation. He will have to serve 9 more months in jail if he fails to pay the fine and 3 more months if he fails to pay the compensation. Minister Prasanna Ranatunga's wife, Maureen Ranatunga, and another accused were acquitted of all charges.
Now, parliamentarian Dilip Vedarachi's son and his daughter-in-law have been arrested by the Veerakettiya police. They were arrested for obstructing the duties of police officers at the Badigama entry point to the Southern Expressway recently. The suspects were arrested after they surrendered themselves to the police. The incident at the expressway occurred when the suspects had tried to transport a fridge. And now on to the crisis affecting the people. Fuel queues can still be seen near filling stations across the country.
Long queues of vehicles waiting to pump petrol and diesel were observed in Colombo and nearby areas.
You can imagine the satisfaction these drivers must feel when they get their chance to pump fuel to their vehicles. It's 6 p.m. and this is the filling station at Flower Road, Colombo. Long queues of vehicles waiting to pump both petrol and diesel can be seen here. When we spoke to these drivers who are waiting in queue, they told us that they have been here since this morning. A short while ago, a fuel bowser arrived at this filling station, and with the help of the police, employees at this filling station finally was able to distribute fuel to all these vehicles that are waiting in queue as a result of the shortage of fuel in the country. I'm Sanita Senanayaka reporting for News First, where the people come first.
A tense situation arose this evening at the filling station in Pohonnaruwa Mirikama after a limit of 20,000 rupees was imposed to purchase diesel. The situation was brought under control when the owner of the filling station brought the limit to 30,000 rupees. All the filling stations in Anuradhapura were closed this morning. However, people were seen waiting in queues to purchase fuel. Fuel was distributed at the Samupakara filling station. However, most of the people waiting in the queue had returned home empty-handed as the distribution of fuel ended within an hour. Our correspondent reported that the filling station at Horana did not have stocks of diesel for several days. Filling stations in Polonnaruwa did not have diesel until this morning. Meanwhile, many fuel bowsers can be seen parked near the Sapugaskanda fuel distribution center. They said fuel will be distributed according to a list with selected names. Private Bus Owners Association says that the exact amount of private buses that will operate tomorrow cannot be announced. Its chairman, Gamunu Wijeratna, said less than 5,000 buses will be operational today. According to our correspondent, a lower number of buses were seen at main bus stands in the country.
It has come to a point where less than 2,000 metric tons is arriving in the country. We cannot tell a definite number of buses that will be operating tomorrow because we will only be able to run buses if we get fuel. Long distance trips are completely disrupted.
Meanwhile, the Railway Department said it has diesel required for 5 days. The Ceylon Transport Board said the amount of fuel they have is sufficient to operate buses for the next few days. What has the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation said? The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation said steps have been taken to distribute diesel properly after the commencement of academic activities in school. The CPC chairman said there is a demand of 5,000 metric tons of diesel and the corporation is issuing diesel considering that demand. He pointed out that if hoarding of fuel stops, the remaining fuel stocks will be sufficient. He also said a ship carrying 40,000 metric tons of diesel is scheduled to arrive in Sri Lanka on the 15th under the Indian credit line. Is the Indian credit line still operational? Under the credit line, Sri Lanka was able to obtain 400,000 metric tons of fuel within March and April. Under the agreement that started in February, India agreed to provide $500 million in the beginning. After that, the credit line was broadened by another $500 million to purchase fuel and essential food items. According to Indian media, Sri Lanka has requested another $500 million through the credit line. Out of the $1 billion provided by India to purchase essential food items, $200 million have been used to purchase fuel. Close to $700 million out of the total debt obtained has been used to purchase petrol and diesel. What will happen to the refinery? Steps have been taken to issue diesel from the Sapugaskanda refinery to the market from today. 800 metric tons of diesel was released to the market today. The chairman of the CPC said measures have been taken to release 1,500 metric tons to the market daily within the next few days. The fuel purchased through the Siberian crude oil tanker is currently being refined at the moment. The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation said diplomatic ties are being held with Russia to obtain crude oil.
දිනකට 3500යි මේ මොහොතේ ඇතුල් කරන්නේ.
3,500 metric ton of crude oil is being entered into the refinery daily. We can increase that amount to 5,500 metric tons. We have brought in new crude oil and subjected it to a partial relief process. As soon as the plant started, gas was supplied to LAF as well as Litro. We have issued 10 to 30 metric tons daily. We can't use this Indian credit line as we wish. If it is they who decide how the Indian credit line is used. Therefore, the Indian credit line has not allowed us to purchase crude oil. We will get stuck in another debt trap if we depend on this Indian credit line for 6 months to 1 year.
තව මාස 6ක් 7ක් අවුරුද්දක් යනකොට ඒ ක්‍රෙඩිට් ලයින් එකේ මිල ගෙවන්න ගියාට පස්සේ ඒ ණය ගෙවන්න ගියාට පස්සේ මේට වඩා දෙවන්ත ණය උගලකට අපි අහු වෙනවා.
Still on the lines of the fuel crisis, students face difficulties in travelling to school as the second academic term resumed today.
Schools reopened for the second academic term today amidst a fuel crisis in the country. Students face difficulties in travelling to school due to the fuel shortage. Many students were seen using private transport. Some students in areas like Lanka used buses to travel to school. In the Kandy town, many students used private transport.
බස් අඩුයි අපි තුන් දෙනාට මැද බයික් එකෙන් යනවා මාර අපහසුතාවයකට ලක් වුණා. දැන් හෙට එන්නේ කොහොමද කියලා හිතා ගන්න අමාරුයි මේ පෙට්‍රල් ගණන් එක්ක.
In Kurunegala, some students were seen travelling on trucks.
More than 40% of school transport services are not operating. The government must bear responsibility. We repeatedly recommended the government to provide us fuel. We have no way of filling our tanks completely as it will cost about 90,000 or 80,000 rupees. The Essential Services Commissioner has declared school transport as an essential service. Owners of vehicles running school transport services will take to the streets. No one can stop us. Their decision to always keep increasing diesel prices is a big problem. We will have to keep increasing fares as they increase prices. School transport fares have gone up. Parents can't bear that. Bringing children to school in batches won't solve the transport crisis. If necessary, they can increase school hours and run school for 3 or 4 days. They must make the Sisusariya transport service more efficient. That will help in finding a solution. Officials must focus on providing a practical solution.
On to another crisis that is affecting the people. There were long lines of people to purchase cooking gas today as well.
The shortage of cooking gas has made it difficult for people to find meals. Near the Samanala grounds in Gaul, there were long queues for gas today. People were in long queues since yesterday to purchase LAF's gas cylinders. Our correspondent reported that there were long queues outside a LAF's gas store in Anuradhapura since last night. There were long queues for gas in Rajagiriya as well. There were long queues for gas in Katuwawala today. As the gas shortage continues, people are now resorting to kerosene as a source of fuel to cook meals. However, buying kerosene is not so easy due to a shortage. There were long queues for kerosene across the country today as well.
Let's take a look at some developments in the global market now. Oil prices jumped in the global market today, with Brent rising above $120 a barrel. The prices went up after Saudi Arabia hiked prices for its crude sales in July.
Brent crude futures were up at $121.52 a barrel. US West Texas Intermediate crude futures were up at $120.50 a barrel after hitting a 3-month high of $120.99. Saudi Arabia raised the official selling price for its flagship Arab Light crude to Asia to a $6.50 premium. The move came despite a decision last week by OPEC Plus to increase output in July and August by 648,000 barrels per day, or 50% more than previously planned.
The Colombo Stock Exchange was closed early today. Market trading was halted after the S&P SL20 index dropped over 5% from the previous close. The all share price index dipped by 3.12% and the S&P SL20 index by 4.10%. The turnover at the Colombo Stock Exchange was 1.46 billion rupees, involving 73.1 million shares.
A 25-year-old person gunned down in Modara.
News First with the people.
On to other news, the Mathura Magistrates Court today sentenced a protester to 3.5 years of rigorous imprisonment.
The Mathura Magistrates Court sentenced a protester who was part of a demonstration demanding fuel to 3.5 years of rigorous imprisonment today. The protester was found guilty of attacking a three-wheeler during the protest, obstructing the Colombo-Mathura main road from the Mahanama Bridge over the Nilwala River on the 19th of April. The court also ordered the accused, a 30-year-old resident of Mathura, to pay 6,000 rupees as damages and 50,000 rupees to the police account. The Criminal Investigations Department summoned social activist and lawyer Senaka Pereira today. A statement was recorded from him for more than 2.5 hours. I have been accused of committing some unlawful acts during protests opposite the 4th Magistrates Court on the 25th. They produced a tape claiming that I was giving instructions to trade union leaders and activists. They questioned me about that. They asked me whether I was the one speaking in the recording. I have no link to the recording. We won't stop the people's struggle at any cost. The Criminal Investigations Department is helpless to an extent where there is no complainant. They say the IGP had made the complaint. We asked the IGP to arrest Mahinda Rajapaksa. The CID, which isn't doing things like that, is taking action over some recording. Social activist Chandralal Abegunawardana was summoned to the Gaul police station today. They said that they summoned me over a Facebook post that I published on the 9th. I saw they attacked unarmed young protesters. I published a post saying the attackers must not be allowed to leave Colombo and that they must be handed over to the police. We don't know what will happen to the country in the coming 2.5 months. This is the only way we can show our frustration without using weapons and oppose the wrongdoings of those in power.
The people's struggle at the Gota Gogama protest site opposite the President's office in Colombo entered its 59th day. The protesters are demanding the immediate resignation of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa.
Large crowds from various parts of the country gathered at the protest site today as well. The country has fallen to a place where we have to beg for essentials. We see how countries across the world are sending us donations. We have turned into a country that goes around begging. The Prime Minister continues to remind people about the situation the country is in right now. The inefficiency and the mismanagement of the President led to this situation. I don't know why he cannot understand the reality. He cannot even admit that he was wrong. If he is trying to sacrifice the lives of the people to prove his success, we ask him how many will have to pay for his sins.
UK's Boris Johnson to face no confidence vote.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa says Sri Lanka needs a new government to come out of this crisis. He made these comments at a meeting with stakeholders of the aviation industry at his office today.
Many are asking the solution for this. The solution is a 5 or 6 year national policy and a roadmap prepared with a progressive approach. The country will receive short, middle term and long term solutions only through a stable government appointed with the blessings of the people. We can't lie to the people when there is a food shortage. Let's come to terms with the facts instead of deceiving the people. There are no instant solutions. The only solution is to seek a fresh mandate and to appoint a government for the next 5 years.
There are warnings of a food crisis in Sri Lanka in the coming months, and now Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina says Bangladesh may provide potatoes to Sri Lanka amidst the impending crisis.
The Prime Minister shared these remarks when Secretary General of South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, Asalaruwan Weerakon, paid a courtesy call on her yesterday. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina urged the South Asian countries to work together in the fight against poverty, describing it as the main enemy in the region. SAARC Secretary General Asalaruwan Weerakon stressed the need for strengthening the SAARC Food Bank. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina said Bangladesh, despite being a country with a huge population, may provide potatoes to Sri Lanka during this crisis. She said Bangladesh has taken steps to grow more food amidst the global food problem following the COVID-19 pandemic and Ukraine-Russia war.
In rural Sri Lanka, farmers held a protest against the government's decision to acquire their lands in Sembalanduwa. The protest was held opposite the Monoragala Forest Office.
The government had published a gazette and acquired more than 20,000 acres of land in Sembalanduwa. The lands had been used by farmers for cultivation for almost 2 decades. Some officials have now allocated these lands to be used for buffaloes to breed. This had sparked anger among farmers. Farmers handed over a memorandum to the district secretary but had not received an answer. This provoked anger among the farmers. Isn't it nothing less than a foolish decision to allocate lands for buffaloes amidst a looming food crisis?
Let me take you back to the crisis that is affecting the people. Now, a shortage of cooking gas in Sri Lanka has left many people, hundreds of them in fact, outside gas dealership stores. There were long queues to purchase Love's gas cylinders in Rajagiriya today. The distribution of gas commenced at around 6 p.m. That's about 3 hours earlier. 2 lorries carrying 812.5 kilogram cylinders and 605 kilogram cylinders were seen at the location. News First with the people. Adding to the rising crime in the country, a 25-year-old man was shot dead in the Ibbagewatha junction in Modara this evening. Police say the motive for the murder remains unclear.
Crime Watch.
Police said two suspects who arrived in a three-wheeler had shot the victim who was travelling on the road. Ammunition used for a T-56 firearm were discovered from the scene of the crime. The victim was employed as a three-wheel driver. Police said the deceased had cases pertaining to narcotics filed against him. This is incidentally the sixth shooting incident reported within the past 7 days in the country.
Crime Watch.
Another phase of the Divi Savia program to distribute dry rations among families in need was held in the Colombo district today. The program is sponsored by LOLC Holdings.
The Divi Savia program, sponsored by LOLC Holdings, entered its 27th day today. Two teams distributed dry rations among many Gram Nildari divisions in the Colombo district. The Divi Savia program aims at supporting low-income families amidst the economic crisis.
Right, on to some news overseas now. Britain's governing Conservative Party will hold a no-confidence vote in Prime Minister Boris Johnson. It could oust him as Britain's leader.
Party official Graham Brady says he has received enough letters from lawmakers demanding a vote on Johnson's leadership to trigger one. That happens if 54 Tory lawmakers, 15% of the party's group in the House of Commons, writes to Brady. Brady said the threshold of 15% has been passed. He said the vote would take place in person in the House of Commons later today. If Johnson loses the vote among the 359 Conservative lawmakers, he will be replaced as Conservative leader and Prime Minister. If he wins, he can't face another challenge for a year. Johnson has been struggling to turn a page on months of ethnic scandals, most notably over rule-breaking parties in government buildings during COVID-19 lockdowns. Following a report into lockdown rule-breaking, Johnson has said it was time to move on and focus on other responsibilities such as the war in Ukraine and UK's cost of living. But a growing number of Conservatives feel that Johnson, the charismatic leader who won them a huge parliamentary majority in 2019, is now a liability. If Johnson is ousted, it would spark a Conservative leadership contest in which several prominent government members are likely to run. Recently, Boris Johnson was greeted by a chorus of boos as he arrived at the Queen's Platinum Jubilee Thanksgiving service on Friday morning. Stepping out of his car when he pulled up at St. Paul's Cathedral in London with his wife Carrie, the Prime Minister was met with boos and whistles from spectators.
You're up to date with the latest stories here on News First. Thanks for stopping by. More news follows on our website. www.newsfirst.lk is the address. I've been Hassan Shazuli. Up next is Face the Nation. Good night and take care.